evening, President O'Brien, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Finch, and special guests. Tonight's awards presentation continues to look a little different. Social distancing is still being practiced, so we will continue to refrain from handshaking. Honorees, after I read about your award, please come forward, pick up your certificate and extraordinary DVUSD logo pin on the table over to my right. You will then proceed to the stairs here for a photo with the Governing Board and Superintendent. We begin tonight with the winner of our district spelling bee, Jacob Sajin. Yay! Now, I've got a little bit to read about him, and we have a little video, too, so this is extra special. We're very excited about Jacob. He is an 8th grader from Highland Lakes who captured the district championship. He won the district spelling bee on the same day that his older brother, pictured here, won the district spelling bee 7 years earlier to the day. Jacob is the little guy in this picture, and he's following in his brother's footsteps. He got his title, Jacob did, by successfully spelling the word coinery. Check it out.
Coinery, consisting of 5 arranged by 5s. Coinery. Q-U-I-N-A-R-Y. Coinery. And we have a winner.
Jacob and the other top DVUSD spellers went on to compete against 40 other spellers at the regional spelling bee competition against students from Cave Creek, Fountain Hills, Paradise Valley, and Scottsdale school districts, as well as private, charter, and homeschool students within the region. At that regional spelling bee event on February 11th, Jacob won. His winning word was martinet, and he will now go on to compete in the state spelling bee on March 19th. Jacob said he has been practicing and working at this for years, and it feels really great to finally achieve this goal. His next goal is that he's hoping to follow in his brother's footsteps by going to state and then hopefully go even further than his brother, who made it to 2nd in state. We are all rooting for Jacob to become the state champion and represent Arizona at the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Congratulations to our DVUSD spelling champion and regional spelling bee winner, Jacob Sajin. Yep, come on over, parents. Parents over here, and then Mark over here. You want to do that? What do you think, Kayla? You got it? Okay. How about one more round of applause for Jacob? Good luck at state. All right, next. AZTEA, or Arizona Technology and Education Association, believes a significant impact can be made at every educational level. The organization recognizes educators, support personnel, administrators, and community members who demonstrate exemplary commitment to education technology in Arizona, including our own Michelle Coots, Technology CIAS. Michelle was awarded the 2021 EdTech Specialist Coach of the Year. This award recognizes someone who works to help support staff in our schools in bringing technology integration into classrooms. Michelle is a true change agent who has helped teachers, students, and families navigate distance learning. She designed an internal technology hub for staff, thank you, and an external technology hub for parents to support both groups to learn about Canvas, Zoom, and each of the technology tools used by students. In addition, Michelle organized trainings for parents, teachers, and other educators and provided opportunities for ongoing learning and just-in-time learning. And I can tell you, she helps everyone with technology, including our department, and we can't thank her enough. Congratulations to Arizona's 2021 EdTech Specialist Coach of the Year, Michelle Coots. Woo-hoo. Congratulations. Well deserved. And finally, for our awards tonight, DVUSD partner Grand Canyon University selects an award-winning principal each month to recognize great work in STEM, trauma-informed practice, and/or innovation. Recently, they selected Legend Springs principal Nicole Basil as an outstanding principal who has demonstrated creativity and vision at her school. Here to share more about the award is Grand Canyon University's Dr. Jennifer Johnson.
Well, good evening, Governing Board, Superintendent Finch. It's my honor to represent Grand Canyon University and Soul Architects, who helped to co-sponsor this award. We solicit nominations from all over Arizona, and out of the many nominations that we get, we select 9 principals, and I travel around the state, one school district each month, to celebrate a principal who has done amazing work. The competition is stiff. So it's only great principals like Nicole that wind up getting honored, and I'm so excited to be able to do that for her in front of you tonight. As Monica said, we have 3 categories. It could be a principal who excels in STEM across their school. It could be trauma-informed practice, or it could be innovation. And to be quite honest, Nicole gets celebrated in all 3 areas, and that is very rare. So the nomination that the district submitted for consideration related to Nicole outlined some very specific kinds of things that she does at her school, and I just want to spend a minute highlighting some of those. And you'll notice the variety of things that she does, and that's just so amazing for her staff and her students to open up those kinds of opportunities. She is obviously the consummate professional. She has technology and music. They have STEM classes that include robotics and coding and digital citizenship, makey, whatever that is. Green screens, I know what that is. They have monthly STEAM day at each grade level. Your gifted and talented students through the SAGE STEAM program get to enrich their academics. The 3rd grade is exploring Genius Hour, and she has 6 staff members who are participating in the ISTE Live virtual training. And then they have the opportunity to share that with other colleagues. They have jam boards and a 3D printer in the library. Librarian hosts a club during lunch and after school. None of that happens without a great principal. And that would have been sufficient for her to probably rise to one of the top principals in Arizona. But the nomination continues by outlining the fact that Nicole is part of a multi-school professional learning communities team, and she has done amazing work in terms of modeling those behaviors, in leading her peers, in helping to spread best practices in professional learning communities. And we know that's one of the most powerful tools we have to ensure high academic achievement by all students. And then the nomination goes on to remind us that Nicole is perhaps most known in Deer Valley for her positive attitude and the high morale of students, staff, and colleagues. She embraces the All Things EQ program, and that helps to transform school, work, and family culture by raising everyone's emotional quotient. And if there was ever a time in the history of Arizona education for someone to be able to bring everyone together and to really focus on what is best for kids in such an enriching environment, it's Nicole, and it's today. So again, we're really happy to be able to celebrate everything that she does. I know you must be very proud of her. Thank you for all that you do to support Nicole and all the principals in your district. You have an amazing district, you have a great reputation, and I know that you care very much about your staff, and I just want to say thank you for taking good care of them. Thank you.
We will. We'll do family one, and then we'll have Jennifer Slater for the next one.
Your dad's coming, Nicole. Wait.
Yeah, Dad, you got to be in the photo.
Do you want us to take a picture with your phone?
Yeah, maybe go down. Go down. Go talk.
Christmas card photo.
Yeah, really. Christmas card photo. And now we want to get one with Jennifer.
I'm waiting for my legend screens people.
Yay! Congratulations. All right, and that concludes our awards and recognitions. And we want to do one more photo with Michelle Coots' family. Let's get the whole clan. Come on, buddy. Three boys and flowers. Good? Kayla? Are we good? We're good? Do you need anything else? All right. We're good? All right, congratulations, everyone. Our regular board meeting begins at 7. Oh, I went too.
Good evening. I'd like to call the regular governing board meeting on February 22nd, 2022 to order at 6 p.m. 7 p.m. I'm so sorry. I'd like an hour back in my day, but it is 7 p.m. here. Please let the roll call show that all members are present. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A motion, a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Our first order of business tonight is an action item. Mrs. Ordway?
I would ask that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation for the principal of Sunrise Elementary School, Sherry LeBouy.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Moffett?
Administration recommends Sherry LeBouy for Sunrise principal. Sherry this evening. Sherry currently serves as the assistant principal at Sierra Verde School. Previous to that, she was the dean at Village Meadows, and prior to that, an employee over in Cave Creek. So we're thrilled that we stole her over here, and she is this evening's recommendation for our Sunrise campus.
I think you meant liberated her. Do we have any questions, governing board members, or comments?
I have a comment. Just want to welcome you into your new position, and where the tears over there, I think you have a principal over there that might be crying, and you can cry together, but it's going to be great because you're going to be a great fit.
All right, I will call for the vote then. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. So congratulations. And then if you'd like to say a few words to the community, Ms. LeBouy.
Thank you. I'm just honored, and I feel like this is a privilege to be able to continue to serve in the Deer Valley community. So I am blown away by tonight's attendance, and I want to thank everybody for their support. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you and congratulations on your new position with Deer Valley.
Moving on to 3B.
Mrs. Ordway?
Yeah, that the governing board, I'll ask that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation for the principal of the Traditional Academy at Bel Air. And we are naming Christine Fitzsimmons.
We have a motion and a second, and Mrs. Moffett.
Christine Fitzsimmons is administration's recommendation. Christine currently serves as the principal of the Academy of Math and Science in Peoria Advanced in Peoria, Arizona. She also has served as a principal previous to that for 7.5 years at Legacy Traditional. So we are excited to have her, a traditional purist who's excited to join the Traditional Academy of Bel Air, and we're happy to have you here this evening, Christine.
Any comments or? Okay, then.
I guess we could welcome Christine again with about a big round of applause over there. Come on.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Yay. And so with congratulations, and if you'd like to say a few words to the community, we'd appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to join the Deer Valley family, and I look forward to everything that we're going to accomplish together.
Wonderful. Welcome to the Deer Valley family. Okay, and with that, we will move on to district reports. This would be the time where if you'd like to get up and leave, we won't hold it against you. Or over there, they were kind of hidden from my view, but thank you for joining us for the celebratory part of the meeting. Our next agenda item is district reports. We have a report from, on the fiscal year 23 budget committee report from Mrs. Mock.
President O'Brien, members of the board, and guests. I might be offended. I was pretty sure that everyone was here to hear the Fiscal and Business Services report this evening, because this is, thank you. This is one of my favorites. Tonight we're going to present on the work from the 22-23 Budget Committee. This is a board committee. It is one of my favorites because of the composition of the committee. It is made up of stakeholders from across the district, representation from every region, every type of school, K-8, K-6, middle school, high school. We have classified staff, certified staff, parent organization representation, community members. As a matter of fact, Dr. Jennifer Johnson, who was here earlier today to present Principal of the Month, served as our business partner representative on the committee. And you can see the list of our committee members here. We had folks that were brand new to the committee, and we had some returning members as well. And it was co-chaired by Mr. Migliorino and myself. We had a total of 3 meetings, but before the meetings even start, we actually opened the process in November, late November, early December, with a narrative budget survey, a narrative input survey. The team met for the first time on December 9th, and at that time, we had the survey ongoing concurrently with that meeting. We present School Finance 101 at the December 9th meeting. The next meeting is January 6th, where we follow up our School Finance 101 with more specific information regarding the Deer Valley Unified School District budget, any budget assumption or concerns for the current school year, and some assumptions for the next school year. We also then look at the results from the narrative input survey. Then following the January 6th meeting, the output from that meeting are the items for the forced ranking survey, which then happens at the end of January through the very beginning of February. And the team meets for a 3rd time. We met on February 3rd to review the results from the forced ranking survey and finalize our budget recommendations or budget priorities for the coming school year. Here you will see a Wordle or word cloud from the narrative input survey. So we received the narrative input survey. We'll take a look in just a second on how many responses we received. But this is thanks to the work of Dr. Scott Smith. He helps us create the survey and take the results and categorizes it for us. The survey was sent out in multiple methods. We sent it in the letters from Dr. Finch on a weekly basis to staff and to our parents. We put it on social media, the district-wide social media, also the finance department social media, and we did some direct emails to staff and parents as well. And here we have the results. And different from years past, competitive salaries and wages, and compensation stood out as a clear pattern from all of our stakeholders. We still had common categories that you see from year to year, including special programs, class size, and academic support as well. When the committee reviewed that direct narrative input, we actually pour over every page and every item and look for the common themes, in addition to the data that Dr. Smith provides. We had 1,601 responses, and you can see clearly that our parents were the main respondents for the narrative input survey. In no particular order, the committee came up with the following items to be placed on the forced ranking survey: increased staff to student ratio, competitive salary and benefit offering for attraction of new employees, competitive salary and benefit offering for all existing employees, provide differentiated pay for hard-to-fill positions, enhance academic support and special programs for students, increased social emotional supports for students, and safety, student safety. We saw when we take a look at the second and third items on this bullet list, typically what we have seen different breakups from the committee. In years past, we've seen compensation for teachers separated for compensation for all staff. But based on the comments and the input that we received, the committee felt very strongly that we should differentiate when we're asking for folks to prioritize between providing that, ranking the importance of providing the benefit, salary and benefit package for our existing employees from attracting new employees. And it was a take that we hadn't really heard before. And we thought we knew what the results were going to be, and we'll take a look at the results in a couple slides here shortly. And we were actually surprised by the results once we sent out the forced ranking survey. Here is the response, the total responses for the forced ranking survey. This was the survey that was open at the end of January, mid-January through the end of January. I think each survey was open for about 3 weeks. We had just under 3,000 responses for this survey. And as you can see, once again, parents equal our greatest stakeholder group to respond to the survey. We sent this survey out the same way we did the narrative survey in our letters to staff and parents from Dr. Finch via district social media, via finance department social media, and also in direct emails to parents and staff. And you can see that we did have some community participation as well as other. And other may be business partner. So it shows a 0% in the overall total of just under 3,000. But you can see on the right-hand side that it is about 11 responses. So we actually feel pretty good about the total number of responses that we received for this survey. And now Mr. Migliorino is going to take us through the specific heat maps and results of the forced ranking survey.
So, oh wow, that's loud. President O'Brien, members of the board, Dr. Finch, I think it's important to maybe share with you that the members of this committee endured over 2 hours in each of those days that we were sharing information with them. So there's a great deal of information that the committee looked at. And what we want to share with you now is kind of what we distilled in the final meeting, which was the forced ranking survey, as Ms. Mock had just shared with you. So these are the results. And again, shout out to Dr. Smith for helping facilitate the actual survey itself. And some of this, one of the things that I found interesting personally is that the committee wanted to have two different questions regarding competitive salary. One was to address competitive salary and benefits for existing employees to retain them, and another separate item to deal with how to attract employees. One of the things that we looked at in the more than 6 hours they endured of School Finance 101 was that we have a lot of vacancies throughout the district. And so there was a distinction between those two items in the actual forced ranking survey. Thank you for adjusting my volume there. I thought I was yelling at you. I didn't mean to be. But what the results showed is there was an overwhelming support for competitive salaries to retain existing employees. And again, remember, the vast majority of these responses are from parents of our students. So it ranked in the top 1 or 2 amongst all stakeholder group. And we'll look at that on the next slide. And you can see the student safety and safety in general also ranked high. You can see the rankings down at the bottom there. We look at it a couple different ways on this sheet. So the average is at the top. We have the percentage of number ones, second line from the bottom, and percentage in top 5, the bottom row there, to be able to maybe see exactly the prevalence of the responses. This survey, we get some comments back because there's also a narrative response in the forced ranking survey, the second survey that is. And we get some comments back that some people don't want to identify all 7. They only care about these top 3, but we really like to see how they organize all 7 items, because the committee spends so much time creating what those 7 priorities would be on the ranked survey from the first survey that people provide. The next slide actually has what that same data looks like by stakeholder group. This is self-reported on the survey. And again, the highest percentage of the respondents are of parents of current students. There's also a category for both parent and an employee as well. And as I mentioned before, the salary increase for existing employees did rank in either the number 1 or number 2 amongst all of the different stakeholder groups. And of course, safety and student safety was popular. And then increasing the staff to student ratio ranks 4th or 5th amongst the groups, but it is 2nd for the community members. So there still is a perception in regards to that, and there was quite a bit of dialogue in the committee regarding how the different ranked survey responses appeared by stakeholder group. The next slide actually has the number 1 count. So just if somebody only filled out their number 1 response, this is what the results would look like. And again, not much different than what we saw on the complete data set from the previous slide. And then I think the final heat map that we have is the top 3. Again, no major changes, whether we're looking at just their number 1 priority, the top 3, or all of their responses. The results pretty much are consistent throughout the results themselves. Which leads us to the actual Budget Committee priority recommendation. So again, all of this information was distilled. The committee then developed what their recommendation would be. These are just the priorities as we work to develop the budget for next fiscal year, or the school year 2022-23. So I'll just read this. As the district continues to adapt to the unique challenges of the changing climate, the Budget Committee recommends the following. Fund competitive salary and benefit package for the retention of all existing employees. Develop a committee that explores opportunities that will re-engage and retain employees. Evidence the value employees have to the educational process, and make employment at DVUSD desirable for new applicants. Ensure and maintain all virtual and physical safety aspects throughout the district. Maintain, expand, and/or reinstate special programs for students to include curricular and extracurricular programs. And then finally, support the volunteer work team as they continue to study the impact of the adult-to-student ratio on student learning. I'll just remind you the word volunteer is in front of the work team because a previous committee wanted to make sure that it was known to the public that our work teams, and even this committee, do not get compensated for their time. And that's true for the work team, that's the STARS work team that's working on this issue as well. So with that, that is the recommendation. This does not require board action, but in terms of next steps, we are currently working with our employee groups to be able to come up with benefit and salary recommendations. In fact, we have the benefit recommendation to share as a preview in tonight's meeting at a future agenda item. We are currently working on a salary recommendation to be able to present to the governing board. In fact, the Negotiated Solutions Team, or NST, will meet next Monday to talk about salary recommendation for the upcoming year. And we are anxiously awaiting legislative decisions to be able to decide what types of, or what, how much resources we will have next year to be able to address the priorities that are on this list. We will anticipate bringing the proposed budget to the board sometime in the month of June, again, pending legislative decisions, with bringing the formal adopted budget for board consideration, likely the one meeting in July that we hold each year. So we'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have about this committee or the budget process in general.
Board members, Mrs. Reed?
I just have one quick clarifying question. So when we're talking about salaries for existing employees. That also includes our classified employees to correct. I want to make sure, I know that we have staffing shortages all across the district, but with the private sector being able to increase hourly wages considerably more than education is, it's more attractive if you can make $5 more an hour, doing the same job someplace else. So just want to make sure that that's on the forefront of our committee's mind when they're going through this next step.
President O'Brien, Ms. Reed, yes, in fact, there was quite a bit of discussion about that. That's why the actual item reads competitive salary and benefit package for the retention of all existing employees. So that includes all the employees. Kind of it takes the village concept, right? But yes, it was inclusive. Specifically, there was quite a bit of discussion regarding classified employees and the number of vacancies, unfortunately, that we continue to have in some areas. And hence the reason why we had the two items on the forced ranking survey as well, to see if we need to address something on the from an attraction standpoint. And how that worked out in the committee was on the second main bullet there, the sub-bullet of that second bullet does talk about making employment at Deer Valley desirable for new applicants. So it did show up, even though it wasn't highly rated, if you will, on the actual forced ranking survey. The committee still thought it was important because of information that we had shared through the 3 different sessions that they sat through.
Thank you.
Mrs. Paperman.
So I have a question with salary and benefits package. So do you mean salary separately and benefits would be like the health insurance, getting more fundings with the health insurance too?
President O'Brien, Ms. Paperman, yes, in fact, the committee thought to join them together because from a total compensation standpoint, they didn't want one at the expense of another. For example, for a salary increase, but yet to have their benefits diminished, they thought would be counterproductive to trying to make sure that the complete package would be considered. The benefit package would include everything from the medical coverage that we provide, dental in our case, short-term disability, life insurance, all of those additional things that we offer to our employees.
And it's going to depend on the legislative decision of what we're going to get as a district with the budgeting. And if it turns out to be enough, it will be a great support to support the benefits, because I know family insurance for teachers can, or even classified staff can cost, I know, $800 to $900 a month, depending what district that you are. And the salaries, Deer Valley, compared to other districts, the salary is much lower compared to other districts. So, to retain teachers, we need to do a better job with them. Thank you.
Mrs. Fisher?
My questions are simple, I think. I looked at the composition of the committee. Has there been any consideration about having employees who are outside of DVEA or DVESPA, just regular employees, so that they have a voice as well? I know that that's been a concern in most districts where the unions are, especially associations, not unions, but unions, are very in control. And I have heard from employees who are concerned that their voice is not heard. So has that been considered? And then the second question is probably for Ms. Moffitt. When we're looking at these jobs and these salary increases, has there been any thought of doing an actual job study specifically to not necessarily just the title, but the actual duties within the position? I know this is something that I've been in the process of doing it with my staff and realizing that title really doesn't mean a lot, but the substance does. And the pay is with a 7% inflation rate. No matter what, we're backwards. So just those two questions.
President O'Brien, Ms. Fisher, as you know, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. A job study, I would answer that we do that informally. We certainly have done that extensively, which you probably recall in previous years we have done that. Other districts also choose to do job studies and they share their data with us. But what's always complicated about that is apples to apples, oranges to oranges it's very difficult to accomplish that task. But we do informally conduct comparisons throughout the school year with informal surveys among different HR departments. And it's usually targeted at specific areas that we are struggling with. So it might be surrounding bus drivers. It could be specific to assistant principals or principals or a department, overall department, and doing some comparisons where we might ask a district what the salary range is paid for that position and what the expectations of that position or responsibility include. But there has been, as of late, no discussion of a comprehensive study like you might be referring to.
I'm referring to more some of the, when you compare school district to school district, if we're all paying low, we're all paying low, or we're all paying high, we're paying high, but it's school district. But when you are, I don't know, the lead secretary at a school, she's really an executive assistant because she's running all kinds of things. And are we at least looking at what's happening in that job? When you have, say, one of our guys in maintenance, he's a welder. If he's making $18 an hour as a welder with us and he can make $30 an hour as a welder with the city of Phoenix or with Glendale or what have you, he's not going to surrender his retirement and he can go somewhere. That's more what I was thinking is not the industry positions that are specific, but more so the positions that are, they can easily leave. Because we really have to make sure that we're competitive, not only with other school districts, but with other governmental entities that have the same benefits, as well as industry, because we've lost quite a few out in industry, which I don't understand, but.
Apologies. President O'Brien, Mrs. Fisher, the composition of the committee, we do work very hard to make sure that all spots on the committee are filled. And actually, one of the things we did this year was including an alternate, which we hadn't necessarily done in the past, because we find that there tends to be a little bit of attrition from meeting to meeting. And to make sure that we've got a full group at every meeting, we have added just some alternates to help us through our thoughts and our discussions. One of the steps that I did not mention when it comes to requesting members for the committee is for staff, we put it out in our Deer Valley Voice. And we have not, in the 3 years that I have been on the committee, gotten any respondents for our solicitation for at-large classified or certified members. We put it out, I think, at least twice typically before the committee convenes, and we update in Deer Valley Voice throughout the meeting. I think, and Mrs. Fisher, I actually share your belief that we should have that diversity on the committee, because that is how we get this great dynamic list of priorities and thoughts that we hadn't considered before. And so the plan for next year, obviously we've got some time, but what I try to do each year is just get out in front of it a little further so that there's more time in order to find those people. And obviously, if one method isn't working, we're going to have to try another method or whatever the case may be. So we do reach out. We opened it to the entire district, had no one no one wanted to be on the committee. So we might have to make it a little sweeter next year, maybe, I don't know what that would look like, but that is the goal, to make sure that we have representation from all types of opinions and stakeholders, whether it be association and non-association.
I would just recommend that they know that they can join as a non-association person. They're not going to be labeled and then later bullied by association members for not being, because that's just the complaint that they bring to me, and so that's where the concern comes from. Thank you.
Mrs. Ordway?
When, excuse me, when you guys meet, and you came, which meeting was it that you finally came up with this list? Was it the very, well, just answer.
That would be the final meeting in February.
Okay, and this group is looking for what from us tonight?
This is just a presentation of the budget priority recommendations. The committee and the district would just ask, actually, the committee would ask that the governing board and the district keep these budget priorities that came directly from our stakeholders in the forefront when making decisions for final budget approval for the 22-23.
So if we had any questions about, or suggestions how to go about doing this, because we have all that fabulous compression that we're still dealing with, who would we send those to? Dr. Finch, who would we send those to? Just specifically for this committee.
I actually tried a nonverbal response that didn't work so well. President O'Brien, Ms. Ordway, if there's some specific information, and we are trying to address the compression from minimum wage in some creative ways. But if there's something specific, if you want to send it to Dr. Finch or copy me on it, I think that would be appropriate. I would suggest, if you did have something that you wanted to share, if you could do so in the near future. Like I said, NST is planning to meet on Monday, the 28th of February, to have some conversations and dialogue regarding salary recommendation specifically. We are also planning to meet on March 8th again to continue those discussions. We have tentatively circled on the map that we may be back before this governing board on March 22nd with maybe some initial thoughts about salary recommendation for next year. Not for formal consideration, but at least to share the results of those two meetings that I mentioned earlier, the 28th and the 8th, 28th of February and March 8th. So,
And in between that time, do you believe that the legislative body might have some answers that we could plug numbers in for real?
President O'Brien, Ms. Ordway,
I did say for real.
I don't believe that they'll have all of the answers worked out by then. It was in my opinion, it was a little bit of a challenge just to get through the aggregate expenditure limit for just this year. And so I think it's going to take more discussion, debate, et cetera, to be able to resolve the issues for future years, including next year, fiscal year 23. So I don't believe that we'll have all the answers, but I think we still need to move forward to make some decisions. One of the things that is pressing, and I know Ms. Moffitt could speak to this better than I, but people are making decisions about their employment for next year. We would like them to have some idea of what to expect if they're trying to decide whether or not they want to come back as an employee of the Deer Valley Unified School District. So we'd like to provide some assurance to people that there's something to look forward to. I think that we might have to make some decisions without having all of the answers from the legislative session this year, is my prediction.
Thank you, and thank you for your prediction.
Thank you very much for that presentation. And I do want to thank all the committee members. That is quite a lengthy process. I realize it's only 3 meetings, but they're long and arduous meetings, and the discussion and the material. I'm sorry, Jim is not always really super exciting, but I do appreciate that. I guess what I would just propose to my fellow governing board members is that if there's something that we disagree with or have questions about on this, that we either discuss it tonight or make sure we get our questions to Dr. Finch. I think that the committee did excellent work, but we want to, if there's something we think needs further looking at or understanding, could we get those questions to them to let us know or ask them now? Mrs. Paperman?
I have one more question. So the budget committee meets, so I would like to know, is it open to the public too? Can anyone just walk in and sit and hear or watch what is being negotiated?
President O'Brien, Mrs. Paperman, yes, it is a governing board committee, so it is open to the public. The last couple of years, due to COVID, we did Zoom the meetings, but anyone, even if they were not a listed member of the committee that wanted to participate, was given the link to the Zoom so that they could listen in.
Mrs. Reed?
I think it would be helpful if you wouldn't mind going back to the committee and asking them some clarifying questions about what safety/student safety is. I think that could be interpreted in a variety of different ways, and I know that we've already invested pretty heavily in campus safety and security upgrades in offices. So just what that might look like, or ideas of what that might be, if it's programming or curriculum for social emotional learning or supports, or it's physical safety items that would need to be installed on campus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Reed. And thank you again to everybody for their work. We will now move to call to the public. Mrs. Ordway?
The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic, and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall time limit, the board president may shorten your time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, and remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items that are not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. And the speakers are Sandra Rothfield, Melissa Drolan, and Stephanie Collins.
If you could please step to the microphone in the order you were called. Okay, thank you. And when you get to the microphone, if you state your name for the record, then your time will begin.
Sandra Rothfeld?
I think you need to step a little bit closer. Get
Sandra Rothfeld?
a little bit closer. Sorry.
Sandra
There you
Rothfeld?
go. Perfect.
Okay, thank you guys. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm the president of the Mountain Ridge Lacrosse Club. Our club has been around for about 6 years. We usually have about 25 to 40 members. Just want to give you a little background about who we are. We are mostly students who are either at Mountain Ridge or are participating in one of the schools at the DVUSD school district. Today, I'm here to ask you to consider how the clubs can better partner with the local schools and with the district itself. As you consider our request, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are and why our program is helpful to the students, the community, and the reputation of the schools. We are really lucky. We have had a number of really great athletes who have been through our program who have not only represented our schools well, but have also gone on to play college lacrosse and have received multiple academic scholarships. Additionally, we have athletes who are really academic. They put their academics first and sports second. So this is really a community that we continue to build and build not only just good students, but great and committed members of our community. We do a lot to outreach. We've really found that there's been a great deal of kind of mental health support that we've needed to provide. We've had a lot of new students who've come to join our team because their parents are worried about how COVID has impacted them, and they find this community is really helpful. We've also had coaches who've had to outreach because people are struggling through some of the different mental. I'm sharing this because I want you to understand this isn't just about athletics. This is about a community, and this is a wonderful community that is associated with Mountain Ridge and the club that we have. Unfortunately, we have had some real struggles. The struggles we've had has been trying to get fields for our team, and we have really followed the protocols. We have reached out, we have communicated. We started this process back in November, and at this point, we have been very consistent and we have done all we can to follow the protocols, but we are still without fields. We've had to cancel our opening game, which was scheduled for tomorrow. The challenge is that every request we put forward is reasonable. Every request is in alignment with the protocols, the published policy. But we truly have not been given what I would consider reasonable explanations for certain things. Some of the expectations of we don't have staff, I fully understand and I appreciate, but our kids walk every day to a practice field that they're able to use only 3 weeks, and they walk by 7 empty fields. And we've been told that those were scheduled for other players, but that's not the case. And we play in a drainage ditch that is not mowed, well, recently mowed, but it's just not consistent. I ask you to consider how clubs are treated.
Thank you for your comments. If we could have our next speaker. Please state your name, which they're both on, so whichever one you're more comfortable at, just state your name for the record.
My name is Melissa Drolan. My son is a Mountain Ridge lacrosse player, and he's also a Mountain Ridge High School student. From the day he started playing lacrosse in the 5th grade, all that he could talk about was how excited he was to play lacrosse at his high school stadium, with his friends and his classmates being able to watch him from the stands, supporting him and his teammates during his games. I'm sure you can imagine his surprise and confusion when he was told by the school that they would not allow him to play on that field. We realize that Ridge Lacrosse is a club. We also know that we do not have school affiliation. Our kids realize this as well. The field denial for them conveyed an unsupportive environment in which they feel they cannot be proud to be lacrosse players within their own district. Our kids don't know the ins and outs of all the district politics, but they do know district policies must be followed. They follow the grading policy. They know the policy for being late to class, and they know the policy for student codes of conduct. They know and follow these policies put forth by this very board every single day. Ridge Lacrosse followed the policy of submitting a request for a field. We were denied by several schools within the district for no availability when the schedule was in fact wide open. Our players are so confused when they see those fields that we requested sitting empty. They don't understand why they can't play on that unused field. They see another lacrosse club in their same school district playing in their own stadium. They don't understand why the same isn't extended to them. Policy is at the heart of every school district. It is my hope that DVUSD will develop and follow more specific policies and procedures regarding facility and field rentals that don't blur the lines from school to school. I would also hope that the district could recognize these clubs not only as an outside extension of the district, because it consists of DVUSD's own students, but also because we are able to support and provide a source of revenue for the district, both of which I think would be the reason why facility rentals exist in the first place. In the end, I think and I hope that the support and excitement of our players for having been DVUSD students can be extended back to them and their love of lacrosse. They can't play without a field, and in the end, that is all they want to do.
Thank you for your comments. I know that district staff is working hard to resolve this issue. We look forward to working with you. And our last speaker, if you'll step to the microphone and state your name, your time will start.
Stephanie Collins. And good evening, Dr. Finch, President O'Brien, and members of the board. I stand before you tonight as both a mother of a DVUSD graduate and remaining students in this district. My greatest prayer is that you hear not anger from my voice tonight, but my passion behind my message. As we approach high school graduation season, I want to ask for each of you to truly consider something. My oldest son graduated from Sandra Day O'Connor in 2019, and within 3 weeks of him walking across that graduation stage, he was walking into basic training with the United States Marine Corps. It has always bothered me that at no time during the entire graduation program or ceremony were students recognized for their commitment to serve our nation, regardless of branch. I can appreciate the emphasis on academic achievement, and in absolutely no way am I standing here tonight taking that away from those students and those parents who celebrate in those moments. However, DVUSD's vision statement is, and I quote, graduating lifelong learners who will successfully compete, lead, and positively impact the world, end quote. It is my belief that we ought to do better at normalizing the importance of trade school, full-time workforce employment, and service to our community. I can't tell you what it feels like as a parent to watch your child sign their name committing to a 4-year university. However, I can tell you that I watched my child sign his literal life away to serve the United States of America. Recent reports released by the Department of Defense reflect that across every single branch in our military, both active and reserve, less than 1/2 of 1% are currently serving. While I don't know what other high schools in this district recognize their soon-to-be service members, I can tell you that that day, Sandra Day O'Connor let me down. A high school where my son spent 4 years as a dedicated and engaged student in the ROTC program. My son returned home, but many of his brothers, unfortunately, did not. So tonight I share this, that I'm just asking and I'm hoping that starting with this next graduation class, that this could be something to be considered, to address these students by name and to recognize that they are taking a path unlike any other. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Mrs. Fisher?
We used to recognize them. Do we not anymore? When did that stop? I'm just asking if you could let us know. I'd
You
appreciate
could
it.
just provide us an update in the board update, I think would be great. Thank you. Is that okay? And I'll be turning over the meeting to Vice President Ordway for the consent agenda.
All right, so we will move to 6A through J. I would recommend that the governing board approve consent agenda items 6A through 6J.
I second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, say nay. So there's one abstention and one nay? 3-1 and 1. Okay. And we'll move on.
Thank you, Vice President Ordway. Action item 7A.
I would ask that the board approve professional development out of state per our policy GCCE.
I second.
Are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor, please, do you have a question? Okay, Mrs. Fisher?
I understand that we have professional development that needs to be done. I did, however, have a constituent contact me regarding this item, and their concern was, and I can understand it, was we keep complaining we have no money, we keep complaining we have no teachers to put in a classroom, so we're having to close classrooms, but we keep sending people around. And so the ask was, can we start trying to consider doing some of these during the summer or off times, or, it's extra pay for during the summer? Because the impact to students is not positive. And that was just the statement that they had. Thanks.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Our next item.
7B, I would ask that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approvals as to addenda as presented.
I second.
Okay, hearing no discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Item 7C.
I would ask that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve a one-time classroom site fund payment to teachers that are new to the district in FY22 on.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Miglerino.
President O'Brien, members of the board, and Dr. Finch, just as a recap, this information is included in the content for this agenda item, but we did approve a one-time payment to our classroom site fund eligible teacher, or mostly teachers, but employees, I should say, technically, as part of the salary recommendation from last year. That did not include the new teachers, and to show value to those new teachers, about 205 of them, to give you an idea of the number, we would like to include a one-time payment for them at the same dollar amount that we did for our continuing teachers. This will help us to recognize those that are in the same position, even though they weren't with us last year. I think the timing of this is important for two reasons. One is the Deer Valley Education Association and certainly the district itself are both support this. But the timing is important because at the last board meeting, this board approved a results-based funding retention payment, which will be an additional one-time payment to continuing staff that these individuals will not receive. So they already did not receive the December one-time payment because it wasn't written that way in the salary recommendation. This would be able to show some appreciation for them, especially at a time when we're getting ready to issue and distribute contracts for next year. We do actually have a balance left over from the classroom site fund allocation that we received last year. Just a quick reminder, the classroom site fund had an adjustment in it, so there was the reason for the one-time payment in the first place. Happened to be that the classroom site fund had to do an the Joint Legislative Budget Committee did an adjustment to the allocation for just 1 year. Instead of adding that to salary and then having to take it back, we developed the one-time payment that included the classroom site fund as well as some additional funds that were part of that payment back in December. So this is to recognize, again, a little over 200 of our new teachers to the profession this year that did not receive this payment in December. The specifics are spelled out there. Those dates are important. Just wanted to recognize Dr. Smith does all of our data crunching for us. I know we've thanked him a couple times this evening, but and I'm not blaming him for this one. This one is all on us, but he does a lot of help making sure that those dates are important so that we can pull the data to be able to process this payment. Again, pending the decision from the board tonight, we anticipate making this payment at the March 3rd, which is an off-week payroll for us, just to be able to distribute the workload, but also it's the same pay date for that results-based funding that was approved at the last board meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Board members? Okay, well, it doesn't look like there are any questions, but I'm going to just say thank you for putting forth this item in a way that we are able to recognize our current employees in this very critical time where we would hope to retain employees. Folks have worked really hard this year, so thank you for putting this forward. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Okay, we will move on to preview item 8A, the school year 22-23 governing board meeting dates. Dr. Finch.
All right, you have those you can click on there. They're similar, the dates are similar to this year. As you know, we have one meeting in July, 2 in August, 2 in September, 1 in October. That's when we traditionally have gone to mid-states, but with the COVID, the last 2 rounds, we have not attended that. But we don't know next year if we're getting back in the business or not, but there is a probability of that where we have a leadership meeting with other states. We even kicked around maybe grabbing some of our southern neighbors as well, Texas, California, Nevada, New Mexico, those folks. So we're kicking around getting a group together of something like that, more Southwest. But that's something we do with our cabinet. And so we have one meeting in October. We have 2 in November, and it is on, because of the election next lap, we are moving those 1 week later, 3 and 5, weeks 3 and 5, because of November election. December, we always have one because of the holidays. January, the 3rd is when we come back. We'll have PD on that day, so we moved those to the 10th and the 24th. And February for the 14th and 28th for really the same reason. But a little footnote there, as we are witnessing tonight, Deer Valley is in the playoffs, and we have had state championships on this date. So this actually will work to our advantage next year, when I'm sure we'll have 3 or 4. Dr. Z, can you guarantee me 3 or 4 people going for state? Looking forward to that, state titles. He says 4 out of 5, not bad. And then March, we have the 7th and the 28th. That's weeks 1 and 4. April's 2, May's 2, and June is 2. So those are recommendations. Obviously, the board can rearrange how they like. We could. There are some options of moving January's and February's up, but again, it could impact like what's happening tonight. So we're recommending February 14 and 28. So those are kind of some of the notes that we have around here, because obviously March has spring break in it. Yes, in March, a little footnote here too, we have back-to-back board meetings from, if we use the February 28th to March 7th. So that is, there are plus and minuses to that, but that's how we arranged it, looking at the schedule related to holidays and spring break, and yeah, that covers everything. So this is just us looking at the calendar, and if you have any thoughts or want to rearrange it, you can. But it's a preview.
So, sorry. I just want to make a clarification that the dates in January and February are our normal 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. The only changes really would be November and then doing week 1 in March, because we normally are on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month.
That is true.
Just for clarification, but I do appreciate you looking at the calendar in November and making adjustments. It worked out there with there being 5 Tuesdays in November. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Ordway?
I was just going to say, if we have any questions or thoughts on it, we can email them to Dr. Finch, correct?
That would be fine, sure. And again, we'll bring it up, if there's any questions, we'll bring them up at the next lap when we vote on it next time we get together.
Anything else? Okay. Preview item 8B is to preview the proposed fiscal year 23 employee benefits recommendation. Mr. Miglerino?
President O'Brien, members of the board, Dr. Finch. So I know we call this the benefit committee, but I think technically it's a work team, just by our definition, right? So work team, staff, committee member, committee would actually include outside members. But we have some things in language that are left over. So I know it says benefit committee. It's probably more technically a work team. You'll see that based on the composition. This is also prescribed for us in the certified and classified manual in terms of the membership. So these are from our employee association groups, led by our Director of Payroll and Benefits, Ms. Costanzo. And we also solicit the help of Valley Schools as well as Hayes, which has now been bought by Brown & Brown, which sounds more like a car dealership, I think, but I think maybe I'm thinking of a dealership in the East Valley. Anyhow, so we have some experts that come in and help us with the actual details of this information. We did have 2 meetings this year because we were able to cover a lot of ground in these 2 meetings. We did not schedule any additional meetings. We did most of the concluding work via electronic transmission, so through email. The meetings were held virtually just because we were set up to do so, not knowing exactly the extent of where we would be with the pandemic. The committee did look at a lot of information over just those 2 short meetings, and I'd be more than happy to share all the details of the loss ratios and prevalent status of prescriptions, and again, not to any detail level. We don't know any individual information. We know the data in an aggregate form. But from all of that information, we were able to develop this benefit recommendation. Again, this is a preview this evening. We intend to bring it back to the board for formal consideration at the next board meeting. That allows us enough time to schedule and plan for the employee open enrollment so that employees can make a selection for the changes. The changes are going to be relatively minor, if not non-existent for our employees, and that was intentional at the request of this group to be able to try and offer the most value when it comes to the benefit offering. So there was, due to a very good experience year last year, we actually were able to build the reserves that we have at Valley Schools Employee Benefit Group. And we had a great start to this year. The last couple months have been a little bit running what we call a little bit hot in terms of the claim costs are greater than the contributions that we would be making. We think that's a little bit pent up demand, people deferring elective procedures or even care. So we don't know if that's going to be a trend that will continue or not, but it is something that we continue to monitor. Based on all the information that the actuarial put together, they are predicting just a 1.75% increase in the total medical cost, which is about $422,000. We believe that the committee recommendation is to take that out of the reserves that we have at Valley Schools. So we're showing that as the cost related to the employee cost of providing the medical benefit for our employees. What I mean by saying that is that the dependent care cost will not change for our employees. So that cost will remain the same as what they're currently paying. If you'll remember, last year, we incorporated a fourth tier product for medical coverage, meaning that we previously had just the option for employee, or you had to elect for family coverage. We now have two more tiers. In between the employee and family, we have employee plus spouse and employee plus children. Implementing that has allowed greater participation of our employees, because the family cost is obviously more expensive than picking up just children or a spouse. And so we've increased our participation of dependent cares due to that change. The deductible remains the same for the high deductible plan, and our out-of-pocket maximums did not change as well. Our stop loss continues to be at $400,000, meaning that for every claim that we receive, we have coverage above $400,000 to be able to help, since we are self-insured. Just as a reminder, we pay for every claim cost that our employees incur, with the exception of something that pierces the stop loss amount. The rest of the what I sometimes refer to as voluntary benefits, but they're not all voluntary, because some of them are employer paid. There were no changes, so we're continuing to provide our employee assistance program, which has been well received by our employees, especially during the challenging times of the past 2 years. We're continuing the dental coverage for employees, with no increase there as well, thanks to a pooled coverage that we have with Valley Schools, being able to control the costs of that plan. We're continuing the voluntary vision coverage. Our short-term disability and life coverage had no changes. That was a 2-year contract that was negotiated by Valley Schools. We are continuing the privacy coverage for our employees. Our wellness program with WellStyles, we are exploring some additional incentives for our health and wellness liaisons, health and productivity. I know we've changed the name a couple times, so I need to be reminded, but it's our liaisons. These are the key individuals at our schools and departments that help lead our wellness program. And then one change on the flexible spending and our COBRA coverage was administered by BASIC. We had some challenges with BASIC. They struggled during the pandemic. We're switching over in April for the administration of that to a new company called WEX. Little reprieve on the Arizona State Retirement System contribution, going down from 12.41% to 12.17%. So that is a benefit to our employees as well as to us as a district, because we match that amount. The alternative contribution rate, or what we refer to as the ACR, is also decreasing. That's the amount that we pay for retirees that come back to work in a position that would have otherwise contributed to the ASRS. And then no other employee paid benefit changes are recommended out of this. The committee did respond back that that they endorse the recommendation. Did want to also recognize, and I think this goes back to 2000 and at least 2000, maybe 12 or 13. The fixed cost with Valley Schools have not changed. So it's been the same amount for a long period of time. And I think that's, again, due to how our self-insured program is administered with the help of Valley Schools. So I just wanted to make that comment. And I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the benefit recommendation. Again, this is just a preview for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Miglorino. Mrs. Reed?
Just have a request since we brought up the EAP program. Mrs. Moffett, would you, at the end of the year, be able to provide us again with a report on how our employees used that, how many utilized it? I think that that's good information for the board to have. I'm very thankful that we offer that for all of our employees. So thank you for continuing that.
Mrs. Fisher?
If you could please provide financials for Valley Schools, all trusts, the actuarial reports you've received, the experiences, percentage-wise at the end of year, and the proposed benefit actuals I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Mrs. Paperman.
So my question is the 1.75%, the reason it's being increased because of the budgeting of how many individuals are getting surgeries or?
Bless you. President O'Brien, Ms. Paperman, really, I think the 1.75%, our experience ratio would have probably had us at more of a zero. That 1.75% is probably what we call medical inflation, and prescription cost escalation is more attributed to that than what we would call our experience that's causing that increase. So it's really medical inflation. It's the one industry that I'd love to get into, because every year they start off with a straight face, I might add, that, you know, that we start off out of the gate that medical inflation is somewhere between 7 and 10%. I wish we could start off with just a 7 or 10% increase in our budget. That would help Ms. Mock quite a bit, but that's not how it works in the educational world. So one of the things that we work on continuously is how do we mitigate those increases with programs that are benefits to our employees, and that's one of the things the benefit committee works on as well.
Another question of district, depending surgeries, or if going to the hospital instead of urgent care, like we notice the difference, like in savings with the district. So I'm just wondering, do employees get educated? You know, if you're gonna go to the hospital, it's gonna cost more than going to urgent care unless it's necessary to go.
Yes, President O'Brien, Ms. Paperman, typically we do that in a number of ways. We do it during the open enrollment period. So this is employee open enrollment, not to be confused with student open enrollment, right? But employee open enrollment is always a positive enrollment, meaning that people have to elect the coverage. Even if they want the same coverage again, they have to go through the open enrollment process and elect those same things because there is information embedded in that process to be able to educate them. We typically also do a health fair. Unfortunately, we have postponed the health fair for this year. Was going to be scheduled into March, and due to the timing of trying to orchestrate that, it has been postponed, unfortunately, indefinitely at this point in time. And then we continually have information that we provide on our portal about that. What the benefit committee has been well versed on, because many of these members have been on the committee or the work team for some time, has been that one of the ways that we affect change is in the structure of the benefits. So how the benefits are actually, how an employee participates in a choice that they make. So it's more expensive for an employee to go to the emergency room. Their copay or deductible is greater if they go to the emergency room for certain procedures. But then if they're admitted, then we waive that. So if the emergency room was the appropriate location, we want to make sure they don't get punished for that. But we also want to do that by encouraging them to go to other alternatives, virtual visit, urgent care. There are a host of options that we have. So in the structure or the design of the benefit, we organize that in such a way to be able to affect that behavior.
Mrs. Ordway?
Mr. McLaurini, how long do you think it will take you to get the data that Mrs. Fisher requested?
President O'Brien, Ms. Ordway, not very long at all. I don't know that I fully understood their question, but the actuarial report is readily available because that's what the committee looked at. The financials we include in the benefit committee, so it's just a matter of providing the additional information that we provided. But I thought I heard her say, and Ms. Fisher, maybe you can correct me, you wanted it for all Valley Schools groups?
It's everything that Valley Schools would provide to a trust board. It's already prepared and ready. If you don't have it, they do. Just ask them for it. They'll send it and it can be uploaded. It's instant.
I think the clarification Mr. Miglerino is asking is you want it for each of the entities that falls under Valley Schools, not just the employee, but correct? Okay. Does that clear everything up, Mr. Miglerino, for that request?
It does. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
Mrs. Ordway?
the reason I asked that is if that could be included, at least in the Friday update. If not, if your finger pushing button gets faster than that, so everyone can read it. And then for those of us that may not understand all of it, we would be able to send questions to those that could explain it, correct?
Yes, if I get to say Friday update, that means there's a Friday every week, right? So, just kidding. I think it'd be easy for us to provide that information for this Friday.
Well, there is a Friday, but if you want to work on it prior to your weekend, you might want to press your button on, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday.
That's true.
Okay.
And other
well,
than that, I'm done.
do you have another question?
Nope.
Apologize, didn't mean to cut you off. All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Miglerino. And again, appreciate the work of the working committee or the employee benefits work team, I think is what you were trying to transition that there to. And then we are going to talk about now preview item 8C, Government Purchasing Alliance Lead District Designation. Mrs. Mock.
President O'Brien, members of the board, I am pleased to present to you one more time this evening. Earlier this school year, our purchasing department was approached by One Government Procurement Alliance, or 1GPA, about potentially becoming a lead district for them. 1GPA, you will have seen this name before. Typically, you will see those on our cooperative purchases. We do use their cooperative purchasing agency for many of our vendors in the district. They are a national nonprofit governmental purchasing cooperative, and they're specifically for public entities. So city, state, counties, public school districts are all able to be members of 1GPA. And as I stated just previously, we are already a member of 1GPA. Lead districts sometimes will help 1GPA. I think Paradise Valley is currently also a lead district for 1GPA. They do not request lead districts very often. They limit the number of districts that they have as lead districts. And Deer Valley was approached. Kudos to our purchasing department and our purchasing director, Laura Seminowski. They approached her specifically because of her reputation as a leader in procurement for school districts, for her knowledge and adherence to compliance and rules for purchasing. So it was because of that reputation and the reputation of Deer Valley that they approached it. Their awards include local and national vendors. As stated, Deer Valley is already a member, and so at a future meeting, we will bring back this recommendation and ask that the governing board approve Deer Valley as a lead district. What that would mean is that any of our solicitations that we make in conjunction with 1GPA would be available to those other 1GPA cooperative members. We get to determine which of our solicitations that we do jointly with 1GPA. For example, we know that later this school year, we need to complete a solicitation for our Medicaid billing services provider and also our procurement card or our P card services. And so those are larger scale solicitations that we might want to partner with 1GPA and make those available for other school districts. It's especially beneficial for smaller school districts as well, so that they do not have to go through the entire solicitation process, which can be quite arduous. What we get for that is some assistance from the 1GPA staff members. And one of the things that I do want to point out is that our governing board retains control of the approval for the award of the solicitation. So just like we do for any of our RFPs or other solicitations that we complete now, that approval would come to our Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board for approval. And it just might look a little, the backup might look a little different than what you see now, and that's the only difference that. We do have the option to cancel participation as a lead district under Arizona Revised Statute 38511 if we chose to do so, if we found that it was no longer mutually beneficial for Deer Valley and 1 GPA. For our troubles, for the purchasing department, it means some additional help, but it could also mean some additional work to make sure that we have all the requirements for 1 GPA in that solicitation. So being part of the administrative team for those solicitations mean that there is also a small share of the administration fee charged by 1 GPA when those purchases are made. And our next steps are hopefully to bring it back at the March 8th board meeting and ask for governing board approval. With that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Mock. Questions, board members? Going once, going twice, gone. All right, we will. Thank you so much for that presentation. We'll look forward to seeing it on the next agenda. If there are any questions, please forward them. Governing board reports, Mrs. Paperman.
I would like to thank the budget committee for all the hard work that you put into it. Take into consideration of with teacher retention and also the survey data, all stakeholders supporting salary and benefits for retention. Also, one of the comments with our students' graduations, if we can look into to make sure that we're recognizing our students if they're in the military or students, programs to give them recognition. Thank you.
Mrs. Fisher?
I want to thank all the teachers who honored Tuesday. I had parents tell me about tutus for Tuesday on 2222, and some of the funniest things that teachers come up with, and staff. I mean, I'm sure there's staff that come up with it too. Today was a nice day. You know, yeah, I have a few people that ask questions, but overwhelmingly, I had a lot more parents tell me the fun stuff happening at their schools, and that just makes for a good day, and no report can top that. So it's just fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed.
So this week is National Public School Week, which I think is a pretty awesome week to celebrate. So just a shout out to all of our public schools and our teachers and staff and administrators who work so hard to make sure that that we are a school of choice for our parents and our community members. Because that's the truth. You know, Arizona has been a school choice state for a really, really long time, since I was in elementary school. And I believe in school choice, and I believe that parents should have the choice to pick which school is the best for them. But I think it's really important for our state legislators to understand that the majority of parents in Arizona are choosing public schools to send their kids to. And in Deer Valley, we know that we have really, really amazing public schools. So thank you to all of you in this room and our teachers and our administrators and our classified staff who go in and serve day in and day out. The things that you do for our students don't go unnoticed, and I know that it's been a tough couple of years trying to balance everything, and we know that public schools don't just educate students. We know that public schools are hubs in the community for a lot of different things. We know that in our Title I communities, parents go for resources for food. For WIC, we have partnerships with food banks, and we have staff that helps fill those food closets and clothing closets to make sure that students' basic needs are met so that we can get to the baseline to be able to educate students. Public schools, especially Deer Valley schools, also step in and help provide resources and services for mental health support, especially with our contract and our relationship with Southwest Behavioral Health Centers. So we help step in and provide that resource to parents who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford those mental health services and counseling for their kids. So we talk a lot about what's the cost to educate a child here in Arizona, and in our schools we do so much more, and we go above and beyond. And I'm so thankful for all of you who do that, and for our community members who always step up to the plate whenever there's a need, who help donate items, who help provide extra things, and who share a part of their salaries with tax contributions to help take care of some of the extra things that other parents might not be able to help support for their students. So athletic fees and field trips and things like that. So thank you for all of those. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to spend a part of my morning at Sandra Day O'Connor High School for Ryan's Rally for Mental Health, which was a community event recognizing a student who died by suicide several years ago. And it was really great to see all of the community members and staff and students who came out to just to highlight positive mental health awareness and to get their bodies moving and to just be together in community. Sandra Day O'Connor Band was out there. Our favorite friend Gabriel from the Talon was there taking pictures for the newspaper, and then also volunteering his time to be a sign holder for the runners. Our ROTC was there presenting colors and then also volunteering. So it was a neat time for the Sandra Day O'Connor community. So thank you for all of those participants who were there. Had another neat little interaction with a Sandra Day O'Connor student when I was at work. She came up to me and shared a classroom assignment that she made and read me a sonnet that she or sent me a sonnet to email and read it to me at the restaurant that she had written. And that was really a really neat thing to be able to just to see our students out in the community and how proud they are of their work and their education environment, and how proud her parents were of the things that she's accomplishing in her classroom. So shout out to Katie. Thank you for taking the time, and for Katie's language arts teacher at O'Connor for just recognizing her achievement and challenging her students to just to be creative writers. I think it's really important. We heard from a couple of parents tonight about recognizing DVUSD students in different ways, and I would just like to encourage our staff, when we're looking at the unique contributions of what our students bring. I think it's really amazing all of the things that our kids do within the school, with the clubs and the activities that they're involved in. But some of their amazing accomplishments come outside of the classroom also. And I think that sometimes we forget to recognize those or to honor those achievements. But it doesn't matter wherever they go, they're still our students. And that's the number one question when a student does something amazing and they get recognized is, oh, what school do you go to? Who's your teacher? And they say Deer Valley schools and they say Deer Valley teachers. And so those accolades come back to our district and to our schools. We have a Sandra Day O'Connor high school student, a senior, who is a lieutenant in the Phoenix Police Cadet Program. And that's something that's totally outside of anything that she does within the walls, but she takes her experiences that she's learned in that cadet program and she utilizes them in the classroom. The same as she takes all of the education that she's received in Deer Valley for the last 13 years and takes that with her to the cadet program. We've had students in our special education programs that have competed in the Special Olympics. They wouldn't be able to compete in athletics in DVUSD to the extent that they can within the Special Olympics program. And those things need to be recognized and celebrated. And then we had a parent here tonight that was talking about making sure that we honor and recognize our students that are going into the military when we have the opportunity to do so. I'd also like to make sure that we're recognizing and honoring our students that maybe not might not be going to a four-year university, but are going into trade programs, that are going, to different services, that are completing their programs with Westmac. And that, if there's a way that we can honor them at their graduation ceremonies, that would be really wonderful. I know for me, my son graduated and he had grades to graduate, and they were good grades, but they weren't grades that were going to get him an academic scholarship anywhere. And there's students that are like that, but they find other ways and other scholarships to be able to get them to college or to get them into a trade program. And I don't want those students and those achievements to be left behind either. And with that, I just want to remind parents that there was an email that went out from the district regarding parent involvement. So we have a committee that is being formed for science curriculum adoption. So please make sure, if that's something that you're interested in, to go back through and find that email or look on the district website. And then there's also an accelerated calendar webinar this Thursday at 5:00 p.m. to discuss what the calendar might look like in a few years and more of a year-round schedule. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Vice President Ordway.
Why, thank you. So it's the time of year for sports and our fine arts to be going, and getting their regional honor choirs. Unfortunately, Deer Valley boys lost their game tonight, but we do have Boulder Creek to look forward to tomorrow. So just going very briefly, which I know it sounds funny when I say briefly, I attended the Deer Valley High School girls game on Wednesday, the boys game on Friday, and the girls game again on Saturday. The girls did not go any further after Saturday, but when you sit in those stands, well, I don't sit, I pace, but when you're in the stands during the game, the amount of tradition, family, sportsmanship is incredible. And that game on Friday was just crazy. I mean, my heart's going right now thinking about how it went. They did not lose their cool. They helped people up when they fell down. I mean, they played hard, but it was so interesting for me to watch our student athletes perform the way they do and watch. It was a little sad to watch the other teams not so pursuing victory with honor. So it's just that sense of family that you get. And even though the girls did not win on Saturday, you just felt all the arms there, even though, they didn't win. It was awesome. So the family and tradition that we have on our campuses is great. Again, when we talk about recognizing our future, and some of them aren't future, they've already signed up for the military. There are high schools that do, high schools that haven't, and I'm hoping that all high schools will, because we are a unified school district. Not saying that everybody has to do everything the same, but I think that our military is the same across the district. Also, the funding for the arts makes it possible for us to have our art show, our district art show that's coming up. Our kids that are in CTE programs such as Avenue 27 had dinner there 2 weeks ago. That was outstanding. So if you haven't made your reservations, you need to. And then it's prom season, finally. I can say it again, prom season's coming up. So calling all fairy godmothers, which is something that I do, we'll be picking a date with Dr. Stoltz next week, and I'll have 2 evenings or late afternoons for our high schoolers to come, and possibly a Saturday morning. And those dresses and some of the suits and whatnot are awesome. So please, the flyer will go out, but that is available for all 5 of our high schools and anyone else to come, because I have, every year, there's somebody from a different school district. And then if Dr. McCusker, which I'm not sure if this is you or the high schools figure it out, but if we are doing a buddy prom, it would be great to know the date on that so I don't miss them. And just so you know, I get pictures from the teachers. I have never and don't have any want to go to a prom. So this is all simply for our students to make sure that they have the ability not to worry about the cost of a dress or a suit. The last part is everyone that's sitting in this room now at 8:35 on 2222, just be glad that we're not repeating it tomorrow. And over there we have a student, so you're going to get to stand up tonight. Student, stand. Let's all give him a round of applause. And that's the only thing I can give you. We're free up here, so that's it. But thanks for coming.
Thank you, Vice President Ordway. And I just once again want to thank those who volunteer their time on our committees, especially the Budget Committee and Employee Benefits Work Team that we had report outs today. Really do appreciate the extra effort there and participation, and would encourage those who are interested in this science curriculum adoption to please go find that and let our district office know about that. We do want parents and community members involved in those opportunities. I'm going to also, again, because I know not everybody tunes in at award time, and give a shout out to Principal Nicole Basil for winning an award for Principal of the Month from GCU. So thank you to Grand Canyon University for acknowledging her hard work and Deer Valley as a great school district. Michelle Coots won a great award related to technology and helping out all of her fellow coworkers. And then we had a student, Jacob Sajan, who won our spelling bee at the district and then moved on and won the region and will be representing us at the state on March 19th. So kudos to all of those that we were able to acknowledge tonight. And then good job, boys basketball at Deer Valley. Great season. I got to catch a game last week and they're amazing. So much to be proud of there. So now I'm going to touch on a couple of less fun topics. The first one is parent-guardian communication plans. I did reach out to the district attorney, and she has written an issue paper, board members, and she will be sharing that with you. So as soon as I get that, we will send it out for you to read. If there are additional questions or you need further clarification, if you could let me know so we could get those forwarded to her, I would appreciate that. And then public comments. So many years ago, when I was a parent in this district and coming to public board or to these board meetings as a parent and participating through public comments, there was a policy about not saying names. And I know that there are many long-term employees who have remember that policy and believe that policy is still in place. However, after having consulted one of our attorneys and talking actually to several attorneys through my years as a governing board member, we cannot ask people to not say names. We would prefer folks go through the chain of command, and if you have a concern with an employee, depending on who that employee is and where it is at, you would start with the employee and then go up through the chain of command, because obviously if somebody comes to speak at public comments, generally speaking, that employee is not here to give their side of the story. However, having said that, we cannot tell folks they can compliment employees, but they can't provide criticism with their names. That would be a violation of their First Amendment rights. It is important for our employees to know that the people who make comments, and actually not just our employees, community members in general, that the people making comments are responsible for their comments. And if there is some kind of injury suffered because of comments that are made, that person, student, staff, community member, they would have to take steps to take action against that public speaker. We have rules about being vulgar or rude, disrespectful, disruptive, but we cannot prevent a community member from using a name. And while I know that that is not a popular policy, or law, but the truth is it's the law. It's the constitutional law to First Amendment right to speak. So I ask that when people come and speak, that you please remember that you're giving your side of the story and the other person is not here to present their side of the story, and to also use our chain of command in trying to resolve issues. That doesn't mean we don't want to hear from people. We want people to be engaged. We want to hear from you, and we want you to be participating in your children's school or your community school if you're a community member or a business member. So if there are further questions about this from governing board members, we can get additional clarification, but I will share the email I received from our attorney with everybody so you all have it. Having said that, thank you again for all the great work everybody does. We are an extraordinary school district, and I'm thankful for every single family that chooses to bring their students here. Having said that, I will turn it over to Dr. Finch for his superintendent's report.
Couple things I want to reiterate as well. I think Mr. Maggrino hit it from 30,000 feet. I will do the same. The Senate passed 23-6, I believe, the aggregate spending expenditure limit for this year. So obviously we don't have to get out the chainsaws for 34 million. So that's good. But that's a fix for this year. And obviously the next test will be a permanent fix into the future. So if they don't do a permanent long-term fix, they will be back again at this time next year. So if you have an opportunity to visit with your legislator, please remind them that a permanent fix would be nice. Second thing to mention, as Ms. Ordway mentioned and Ms. O'Brien, we want to congratulate Deer Valley gals and guys. Both had an awesome season, but at one time they were both ranked #1 in the state. But Deer Valley, I went to the girls' game as well, saw Ms. Ordway there. They were down by 20 and got it down to 1 with 30 seconds left and had a chance. There was a nice design play. We got tricked. Ended up scoring, and that was it. So, but they were right there. So great comeback, and they were missing one of their key players. So they had a great game. And to Miss Ordway's point, sportsmanship was evident. They did a nice job, and appreciate our coaches that emphasize that because we teach life through sport. So, but they did lose tonight by 7. They were down by 17 at one point. So they came back and made it close against Stella Point Catholic. Yes, Boulder Creek plays tomorrow at Mountain Point at 7. They're in the Elite 8. They're the last of our journey. Last but not least, I also want to be on the brag team. We have some awards that we just recently received. One is Mountain Ridge High School boys received the 6A Sportsmanship Award for the entire state, which is a big deal. That's huge. That's obviously 6A is the large districts, and so congratulations on that. We also have many wrestlers that won Yeah, we have one gal that won for the third time. Barry Goldwater. Bree won her third state championship and is nationally ranked as well. And so we had a great weekend of wrestling. We want to congratulate those folks that are finishing up there. Second award, or second one that I want to again brag about, we received the Foothills Focus, which is a zone, a reading zone in northern Phoenix, as school district best school district in the north, which is all of our Nevic brothers and sisters. So I make sure I rub it into them every time I see them. Scottsdale, PV, Peoria, et cetera, et cetera. So the perception, the community perception, again, is that we are a place to be recognized, and for all the hard work that is done. And last but not least, we also received from Forbes a national ranking of the 127th in the nation. Only 4 school districts were included on that list. We're the only Arizona school district on that list as the best place to work with over 1,000 employees. So pretty cool. We now have 42 schools and around 4,000 employees. It's nice to be included in that discussion. This is our third year we've been recognized in Arizona as the best place to work, but this is the first time we've been recognized nationally. Congratulations, Deer Valley.
Well, that is a lot to be thankful for and excited about for certain. Our future meeting dates are posted, and with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:40.
So moved.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.